Hello, happy Thursday. Welcome to another Lunch and Learn with Purse Strings. My name is Maggie Nielsen and I'm partner here at Purse Strings, and we are all about providing tips, tricks, pieces of advice to help women be financially fearless. And then when you are going through a divorce, need an estate plan, looking to, plan for retirement, whatever it may be, we have top-tier financial professionals willing, ready, and able to serve you. We call those our Purse Strings approved professionals, and Christine is one of them. So we're so excited to have her on today to talk about some common divorce mistakes and how to prevent them. But before we get into all of that, could you give a little intro of who you are and what you do?
Yeah. Hi. Thanks, Maggie. I'm Cris Kalivas. I am a CFP and a CDFA, which is a lot of alphabet soup after my name. But the CFP stands for Certified Financial Planner, and the CDFA stands for a Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. So I do comprehensive financial planning and wealth management for anybody, not just divorced folks, but I tend to get a lot of divorced females. And so I speak a lot to them and help them make the next chapter of their life good. Like I always tell my clients, our lives are a story, and this is a bad chapter, and it's not the end of the story. And I believe in happy endings. So it's really just a bad chapter. And so we work on the following chapters. So like I mentioned, I do comprehensive financial planning, and I'm based in Chicago area.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. We know divorce rates are pretty high right now, and gray divorce is really triple the divorce rate. But it's essential to have great professionals like you on our team who are very knowledgeable and can help us make, the best future that we can after this. I know it can be a scary time, but we're making it the best that it can be and to make the most positive result afterwards.
Yeah.
So today we're going to go through 7 common mistakes you see a lot in divorce and how to prevent them. And so we're excited to go through this list. And if anyone has questions along the way, throw them in the chat. If you're watching the replay, you can still comment them and we'll work on getting back to those. Are we starting at number 1 or number 7? Which way do you want to count down?
Yeah, let's start with number 1. And
all right.
I'm going to say if you forget the other 6, that's okay. The number 1 is kind of the most important and kind of encompasses the other 6. But the first is settling too soon for too little. And what that means really is divorce is a marathon. It's so long and it can be so expensive. And in the exhaustion, so many folks that I work with just give up. They just settle because they're exhausted. And it's been a year, 2 years, 3 years, and tens of thousands of dollars of legal fees. And they're just settle, just give me whatever. And what happens is, number 1, not only is it a lot of times too little for them to live on or to retire on, but they don't understand it. They don't understand what they got. They don't understand if they pleaded for the house doesn't have an income for them to buy food. And it's great that they have this beautiful house, but it's not helping them. And so it really is, they settled too soon and they didn't understand it, and it's too little, and they just became exhausted. And that's the number 1 mistake I see. And I see it 90% of the time. And so if I can just really impress on folks, I know you're exhausted. I know it's been a long haul, but if you could just really make sure that you don't stop too soon and get a professional in your corner so that you understand what you're going to get, that's the most important one. So like I said, that was number 1, and that is kind of the most important one.
That's a great piece of advice. And yeah, I could see how it'd be exhausting after a while. You want to just move to the next chapter, but this could really financially impact the next chapter. And so I know you want to make sure that they land in the best scenario possible. If you already put it in 3 years, let's just finish this up. Let's, don't give up now.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So number 2 is very similar, but it's a little different. It's not understanding your financial needs monthly. What are your monthly expenses? Now, I think the statistics say that 93% of people don't keep a budget. And I get that. It's not budgeting. Nobody budgets and really sticks with it. And I'm not asking you to budget. I'm really just asking you to understand what are your monthly needs. Again, 80-90% of the people that I meet with have no clue what they need monthly. And that's one of the first cornerstones that I ask people is, well, what do you need? Because they'll say, well, I'm getting $4,000 a month. Is that enough? I don't know. I have no idea what your expenses are. So we really need to understand what our budgeting monthly needs are. And if you don't, and if you're thinking about divorcing, I would really, really encourage you to get a tracking app. They are so simple these days. You get them on your phone, you can sync them to your credit cards, your bank accounts, and every morning just get in the habit of dragging and dropping them into the categories. It will be a huge education for you on how much you spend on clothing or eating out or on groceries. But it will be so educational for you to understand where does your money go. So we need to make sure that you have the 4 walls paid for, we call them. And the 4 walls are your housing, your transportation, your food, and your clothing. Those are the most important needs. And then we're going to add on things like, what is your cell phone bill? Do you have retirement savings? Things like that. And then, of course, if there's kids involved, what are the costs of the kids' activities? Are they in sports? School registration. I just did that for my daughter. It's hundreds of dollars. It's really expensive.
For high school?
Yeah, public high school, because we have to rent the iPad and we have to, sports cost a couple $100s. And, what are those costs and who's going to pay for those? So we need to make sure that we have these line item budgets. We want to make sure that in the settlement, we get some of this money up front. Oftentimes, and this isn't always the case, but if you are the female and you are at home taking care of kids, if you're going to go back to work, you're most likely going to have your first job back is going to be lower paying. And so do you have the money to cover right away these expenses? So we need to become educated on our monthly financial needs.
Definitely.
So that's too.
It's a great point, because you don't know what that money, $4,000, what it can do for you. I know I use the app Copilot that I like to track my money with. And so I have, one set as the reoccurring payment. So I can see how much I pay every month on reoccurring payments, and then, what my other variables are and how much I spend, which is great to do. But it is hard to start tracking your numbers and to remember, only in August do I pay the school fee, to remember these different monthly line items. And that's why I think sometimes working with you to bring up different ideas that you might easily forget. I know I always forget, like my car registration, or whatever it may be. So to work with somebody sometimes to run through those ones that you don't always remember, I think is helpful as well.
Yep. And it can ebb and flow at different times of year. Like you mentioned, the school registration, and then, Christmas is coming. So how do you pay for gifts and things like that? So
back to school clothes, school shopping, whatever it may be. I know every season has, and then after a while, every season has its thing. That's going to cost you $500. If it's not the school, it's the Christmas. If it's not that, it's, something else. So,
spring break.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. But understanding those needs, and just, it's super simple to do it. These apps, there's no excuse really anymore because they're so simple.
Definitely.
Number 3 is not having all the financial documents when you're talking about divorce. So, and understanding what the valuation of your assets are. So again, a wife or a husband might come to me and say, I want to keep the house. Okay. Well, how much do you have left on your mortgage? They have no idea. What's your mortgage interest rate at? What did you buy your house for? And have you made any improvements? What's the cost basis? Because there's a tax, right? If you sell that house, you might have capital gains. And so we need to understand what's the valuation of the house. If one of the members in the marriage have a pension, what is that pension worth? And those can be kind of confusing, because those are future cash flows that we have to value today. But it's really important to have that valuated, because, if one of the members of the marriage are going to receiving a big pension someday, that's a lot of money. You have to include that in the settlement. The 401k statements. Don't just say, well, I think he's got 50,000 in a 401k. What exactly does he have in there? Do you have a brokerage account? We have to have all of the assets. I've even had clients that say, well, he buried a couple bars of gold in the backyard. And so that's worth money.
Yeah.
Anything that is of value, we need to have a number assigned to that and have a statement if available so that we can divide equitably. And so often people have no idea what they have, where those papers might be, what the logins are. It's just really important to have all of this information. I always tell my clients at the end of this divorce, you're going to be the CFO of your own company, of your own finances. So this is going to be a really quick and fast education on it, but you're going to learn it all. So let's start with all these statements and understand what you own. Cash value life insurance policies. A lot of people don't know that a life insurance policy could have some value to it.
Right.
So that is number 3, is just understanding all those documents and assets.
And so, are there so it seems like we've covered, retirement accounts you need to grab, like the worth of a house, any other, if you own a boat or a second home or something like that. Is there anything else that you see people like typically forget that's an asset? Because I'm picturing, someone who's been home for a while. And so it's like, how do I even get to my spouse's 401k and their benefits that they might get? How do people get that?
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, they have to ask.
Okay.
Unless they have the logins for them,
Mm-hmm.
or unless they still get paper documents, which a lot of people don't get anymore.
Right.
But they have to ask. But again, if you do it prior to the settlement, if they don't provide it willingly, at least if you are working through an attorney, they can subpoena these documents and make them give them up. So, it's a marital asset.
Right.
And so it's really, really important for you to have access to these. And also debt. Do you have any debt? Do you have any outstanding credit card debt? That is not an asset, but it's something that you should split in a divorce. It's not
liability.
Yeah. And so that's part of the balance sheet as well. So we want to make sure that we have that included as well, because you don't want to just pay for that yourself or assume that yourself. So it's having all these it's having all of these statements so that we can make a real good, an accurate picture of your family balance sheet.
I love that. So. Awesome. Yeah. And we have a worksheet that has some of those documents listed on it if anyone needs it as well. Just to kind of have a checklist of where it is, great. On the computer, or is it in a folder, just because I know some things are just virtual nowadays. So if anyone needs that, we do have that as well.
Yes. And that is excellent. I've actually given that to clients as well, because it's so comprehensive.
Yeah, definitely. We know there's a lot of paperwork out there that it's just easy to slip your mind.
Right. So, and number 4 is don't rely on your attorney to make a financial split for you. Attorneys are really smart and they're wonderful. And I don't want the attorneys to hate me after this, but they went to law school. Yeah. They didn't go get a financial degree. And, they may not understand how to value a pension, how to figure the capital gains from your home. We want to make sure that it's done correctly. I have clients that have side gigs, side businesses, and they're not valued properly, where that's an asset, this business that they have, and that needs to be taken into consideration as well. So, again, hire a professional, hire a CDFA or a CFP or even your CPA, again, alphabet soup, but hire the professional. It may seem like a lot of money now, but it is so much more expensive to reopen the books at a later time. Get the person who really knows exactly what they're doing. And they can do it fast. It's just like anything else, right? If you're going to be a contractor on your house, are you going to do it yourself and maybe do the plumbing wrong and have to fix it later? Or are you going to hire the person who knows how to do it and do it quickly? So hire the person that this is what they do.
And so honestly, I would argue most of the time that your financial professional is usually cheaper per hour than your attorney.
Oh, for sure.
And so it is kind of a money savings when you work with your financial professional and then bring that to your attorney. And that's why we like to talk about bringing that whole team together, send them an email, introduce them to each other, bring them together as a team because they're all on your side. But, I would rather just pay a little less with someone who has a more expertise knowledge in that area than just pay someone more because it seems that's what everyone does.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Maggie. And I'm a part of a divorce network where we have a software where we upload everything into one place. And so it's so easy for the attorney to say, okay, all their finances are uploaded. Can you take it and, work on some scenarios for a division? And it's all right there. And we communicate. It's so much less expensive and just efficient as well.
I love that. That's an awesome program. So that's great.
Yeah. So number 5 is not taking into consideration taxes. So many people just say, well, I don't understand taxes. Our tax guy does it all. Well, time to learn a few things about taxes. If you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, you can do taxes, and they're not very complicated, but it's a real big consideration. I mentioned keeping the home later or earlier in the conversation. And, that is a big consideration on how a home sale is taxed versus maybe 401k distributions and how they're taxed. They're completely different versus maybe a savings account versus marital support or child support. They're all taxed differently. So that needs to be taken into consideration when you're dividing all the assets. And again, it's just time to learn it. It's super easy. And once you just learn the very basics of it, anybody can do it. So not taking into that is really, really important. We just don't want to we want to make sure that the tax bite doesn't hit one of the parties disproportionately.
Right. And I think this is common when it comes to like your retirement account, because if you have a regular 401k versus a Roth, one's pre-tax, one's post-tax. And so those are going to be very different when you take them out, in 30 years or, in 20 years. I know that's a common thing that I've seen where that tax is huge and that really changes that final paycheck or that final amount that you could take, from that account.
Yep, exactly. So that's a perfect example. So it's really just, again, taking it into consideration, and an expert will help you do that. And, one side note, obviously I've mentioned a couple times to get an expert on your side. When you're looking for somebody to work with, make sure you find somebody that has a heart of a teacher, that is willing to sit down with you and teach you and explain everything to you. That there's no shame. There's no question is dumb. I know nothing about medicine. And so I want a doctor that I go to that will explain anything that's wrong with me or my child or my husband. And I'm going to ask really dumb questions about it, but I want one that is going to sit and be patient with me. Make sure you go to somebody just like that for your finances or anything in your divorce that is willing to answer any of your questions, not make you feel dumb, and even really not charge you for every single question you ask. Just this is, I'm doing this service for you. Ask me anything. That's included. And make sure you find somebody that you have a really good rapport with. So that's definitely a side note.
It's so true though. It makes all the difference. And it's a tough process. You want to be able to ask those questions and have someone to turn to and explain it to you. Cause you're right. Yeah. There's some other areas. I have no idea what's going on. I'm going to ask level 1 questions. That's how it's going to be. And that's fine. And that's why you're here.
Yep, exactly. Okay, the 6th mistake is not considering insurance. So there's 3 types of insurance that we are going to be concerned with. The first is life insurance. If you are the spouse that is going to be receiving marital support, and if you possibly have kids and you're getting child support, be sure that you own life insurance on the ex-spouse that's going to be paying that support. Heaven forbid, if something happens to that ex-spouse and they pass away, well, there goes your support as well. And so you want to be sure that it is insured. Life insurance typically, even if you get a term for a set amount of time, maybe until the kids are gone, they're typically not that expensive. Super important. I've seen too many times where that life support, that marital support or child support was not insured, and then they end up with nothing. So
So you can
that's
take a
really
life
important.
insurance policy out on somebody else.
Mhm.
Okay,
And
interesting.
typically, it's part of the settlement, like the judge will order it
Okay.
and say, a life insurance policy has to be in place for the marital support or the child support.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that is, like I said, it's usually ordered by the judge, but sometimes when people figure these things out on their own and they don't go through the courts, then
Right.
they forget about something like that. The
Yeah.
second part is health insurance. If you've been on your spouse's health insurance, now what? What are you going to do? You are eligible for COBRA for 36 months on his previous or her previous policy. However, just to remember, COBRA is really expensive.
Yeah.
So if you are going to pay that, is that a line item in your budget?
Yeah.
COBRA, you have to pay both sides of the insurance, insurance premium, the employer side and the employee side. So it's very expensive. Make sure it's part of your budget. And the kids' health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to pay for that? Whose policy is going to be on? So those are the discussions. Again, they just need to be on before the settlement has taken place. And then also we're always going to talk about your car property and casualty, umbrella insurance. Again, is that a line item in your budget? Who's going to pay your car insurance if you had, a family policy before, things like that. They just need to be discussed.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
homeowners insurance.
Yeah, it's now everything that you had one of, you're going to need two of.
Right.
And sometimes those policies are a little higher if you had like one car just for you versus one policy with two cars on it.
Right.
It's like a little bit more. And so now it's like you really have to make sure all those items are in there because as you can see, this list adds up fast from all these different insurances and things like that, which are necessary, but they add up.
Right.
And so, yeah, we just need, like you said, we need to be prepared and we want to make sure everyone's covered because we know something would happen when we're not covered because that's how things go.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And the last mistake is not considering future financial needs. We're so focused on, am I going to be able to live? Am I going to be able to pay a mortgage? Am I going to be able to ever go on a vacation again? Are we considering retirement? There is going to be a time when you can no longer work. Yeah. And so, are you getting anything from a 401k? Are you giving up a lot of your 401k? What is your future earnings power, future savings power? Those are the considerations that we take a look at as well. If you haven't been working for a while, oftentimes I have members try and find a job where there is some kind of pension. A government job, a school job, that helps get some kind of retirement security. But we need to, that should be part of the equation as well, is not just what's right in front of them immediately, but, 10, 20, 30 years down the road.
Yeah.
So super important. And then part of that is in the divorce settlement to make sure that it is very, very specific about when your marital support will end, when the child support will end. Is the settlement modifiable? Can it be changed? Can it be extended? Again, you don't want to have to do that, but if it's already in the settlement that it can be changed or extended, then it costs less, basically.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
we want to try and keep the costs down. And all of these, if we have these discussions prior to the final settlement, it's so important because then you don't have to go back in with your attorneys to make changes, and they're going to charge you every hour that they're working on it, and it just gets so expensive.
Right, definitely. So having these conversations before the book is closed is essential. To really make that future plan for yourself. I'm going to see if any questions are coming in. If anyone does have any, they can write them in. But these were all amazing tips and really essential just to be talking about and bringing top of mind because there's so many things going on in life. It's easy to forget some of these details or some of these different things, especially when we're in an emotional time of our life as well. There's a lot going on.
Right. It's like I said, number one is the settling too soon. It's just so easy to be exhausted and have somebody put a piece of paper in front of you and say, just sign it. And then you'll be done. It'll be over. And I just see too many on the other side where they say, but they told me to sign it and I just wanted it to be done. And they don't understand anything that they got.
Yeah, it's really hard because then you have to just kind of work with those results.
Right.
And so do you typically then work, or you're able to then work with your clients after they've gone through divorce and kind of make sure then they are lined up for those next kind of goals in their life, whether that be retirement or, helping get a job and planning for their next steps? That's where then you can come in and really help build that next chapter.
Right. And I always tell people I end up being sometimes more of an accountability coach.
Yeah.
I help with anything financial, but a lot of it is, we'll say you need to get a job, and you need to get a job that makes X so that you can save, and you need a job that has benefits. Well, they might get an easy job first. And it's me that's a year later saying, okay, it's time to look for that job again.
Right.
For your long-term projections, you really need to make more, or we need to stop paying for this COBRA anymore, this COBRA insurance. You need to find a job with better benefits. I'm kind of that nagging mother in the back of there.
We all need it though, because it's things that we don't want to do, but we need someone to push us, get us out of our comfort zone, and who will be like, this is for the best. This, I'm doing this so you can retire and enjoy your life. But we got to do a little bit more right now.
Right. It's always putting that goal out there and saying, I know you don't want to work for the rest of your life.
Right.
And so if we know we've got this runway of 20, 25 years or whatever, if we do these few steps now, you will be so thankful in 20 years that you did this. So I'm just, it's just continuing to place that in front of them, and also just being a cheerleader of saying, you can do this. You can do more. Again, I mentioned earlier, it's a really bad chapter that you're just getting out of, but this isn't the end of your life. I mean, when we do financial plans and projections, our life expectancy is 93, 94 years old. And
I'm surprised it's not 100 yet.
Right. Right. I mean, it's 94, 93. Well, if people are getting a gray divorce, they think they're so old and their life is over. I'm still planning on them living 40 more years.
Right.
So we have to fund that next 40 years. And, it's only half over. The best is yet to come, I tell them, let's get back in the game. It was a bad chapter, and we're going to turn it around. And we made some bad decisions in the past, maybe financially, but you're not going to make them again, because I'm on your side and I won't let you. And so it's a lot of that kind of working with folks and calling them, reminding them, you said you were going to max out your 401k. I don't see you doing it. What's happening? And obviously, if they're not, that's fine. I can't do anything about it, but I'll just say, okay, now the projections are X, Y, Z. If you want to retire earlier, you need to do this.
Yeah. You're putting the facts with the numbers and some cheerleading along the way to make those dreams possible. I mean, you can't, what is it? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, or I don't know, whatever. Right. You're there to help them and cheer them on and really make, the best of this situation. And I've seen so many amazing women come out through divorce, and their prime chapter is right there. And they start living their best life, which is amazing to see.
Right.
We just want to make sure you're having fun and well-funded.
Right. And a lot of them go back to school. And a lot of times, there's a lot of things they qualify for now.
Yeah.
There's educational grants, because now maybe they may be lower income. So, it's never, I always tell people, don't let finances stop you from getting a better education or pursuing something that you've always wanted to do. There are grants and scholarships and ways that we can make this happen. Don't say no yet. And I have one client who is going back for her law degree at 58. And
at 58?
Yeah. She said, I've always wanted to do this. I'm like, that's awesome.
Let's do it.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
And so, it's never too late. And she's so excited to be doing it. I think she's probably the best student at the school.
I'm sure she's also, double the age of everyone there, bringing her own just wisdom of life.
Yeah, exactly. So it's never too late. And it's, it just take time, get some people in your corner with you. That's, so important. Don't try and do this alone, is to become educated, which is what you guys are all about, not becoming fearful, just
Yeah.
becoming financially strong and educated. As I mentioned earlier, if you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, you can do your finances. It's
Right.
not hard. It's just that we were never taught them, or we let somebody else in our family handle them for us. Well, we can learn it now. It's not too hard. You just have to find the right person to educate you.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. And we'll let you use your calculator. I mean,
right,
you're
exactly.
gonna have to do it by hand. We'll let you use your calculator.
Right. There's so many good tools online. Well, your guys' handbook is excellent. Like I
Yeah,
said,
that
I use
emergency binder. We just want people to be prepared, have the information, and that way, when you are your own CFO, like you mentioned, it's all in one book. It's like the
right.
Bible of your life, of everything you need.
Yep. I laugh. I have to change this myself. I have on my computer my password is my fingerprint.
Mm.
And so the big joke in my family is if mom dies, be sure you keep her index finger so that you can access her computer, which is really bad. But I need to change that myself and update all my passwords and make sure everybody can get in.
Yeah, I think yeah, I always imagine like when you're dead, but they still have to hold up your phone so you can
Yeah.
unlock the screen that last time,
Your eye or something. Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
this has been a wealth of knowledge, Christine. I really appreciate you coming and sharing this information, sharing, that how you really work with your clients, really leading with that cheerleading mentality, and that you can really help them any step of the way. So please, if you're watching this and you need some assistance, don't hesitate. Reach out. I know you always have like a free 20-minute call just to make sure
Yep.
it's a good fit for everybody. Your email's been going through the bottom, chris@fortunefinancialgroup.com. Otherwise, Christine is a Purse Strings approved professional, so you can reach out to her off of our site, pursestrings.co.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you coming on today, and we'll talk to everyone again soon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Maggie.
Yeah, talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.